Hi, my name's Sue and welcome to Sue Marie P. Many of you know that I love baking with spelt flour. Today I'm excited because I'm going to share something I've wanted to share for so long now, a simple whole grain spelt sourdough made with my own whole grain spelt starter. I'll share that video very soon as well, and I'll add a link to this video. But this method I'm borrowing from a blogger and fellow YouTuber called Elly's Everyday. She has this great method of making her sourdough loaf in a little pan. And so I thought, why not? I'll do the same. And I tried it and it was so easy that I've asked permission and Elly said, go ahead. So thank you, Elly, and I'm going to share that today. So if you'd like to see how to make a sourdough loaf bread in a pan, come with me and let's see. So the first step, grab a large bowl and we're going to measure out we're going to do what's called the autolyse, so the shaggy dough part. I've had to adjust my recipe from Elly's because my little pan is quite small. I'll measure it and add the measurements to the recipe. All my recipes you can find at suemariep.com, and I have extra recipes if you want to become a member. You can just sign up to my membership, it's free. So the first step is we need to grab the starter. The starter I fed overnight, so it's doubled in size, and we need to pop some water in. So I'm doing 300 grams of water. And it's warm, I just used cold water and added a little bit of kettle water. Then my bubbly starter, I'm going to add about 80 grams to 100. Last time I did it, I only had a little bit, so I only added 80 grams, but I've made a bit more today. Okay, so I fed that with 50 grams of water and 50 grams of whole grain spelt, and it's perfect. There's a little bit left in the bottom, probably about 20 grams or a couple of tablespoons. I'll pop that back in the fridge and then I only feed it when I need to use it. I'm just going to mix those two together. Okay, so that's all mixed together. I'm going to add 420 grams of whole grain spelt flour. So I'm just going to combine this until I don't see any more flour. And that's what's called the shaggy dough. So I'm going to call it the shaggy dough dance. Or the technical term is the autolyse method, or autolyse. I'll zoom you in so you can have a look what I'm doing. So that's almost mixed. I just saw one little bit of flour. So it's not super smooth. It's just kind of rustic. I've used to use a spatula because I didn't want to dirty my hands. Oh, one bit of flour there. Okay. You can use a wooden spoon or just use your hands if you like. Okay, so that will now rest behind me on the bench. I'm going to cover it with my cloth cover. I'm going to rest this for 60 minutes or 1 hour just on a bench away from any drafts. It's quite warm here today. Just rinse that small bowl I have my flour in. The next step I'm going to call salty water. So I've got 8 grams or a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add it to my bowl. Just grab your scales again. We're going to measure out 40 grams of this warm water. That's just dissolving the salt into the water, and that'll help incorporate it better into the dough later. So while we're waiting for the dough to rise or to do its thing, I'll measure this for you. So the internals of my pan are just under 21.5 centimetres, or that's about 8.5, just under 8.5 inches by 11 centimetres or 4.5 inches. And it's about 6 centimetres high or 2.5 inches. So to prepare it, I'm just using butter. If you've got a baking spray, you could use that. This is all I have in the house. I don't like using oil. I think it discolours my pan, so I'm just brushing the butter. You could probably use margarine if you've got that, or something cheaper. The reason I went smaller is this one fits into my Dutch oven, which I bake it in. Okay, that's all brushed. And then I like to grab a small piece of baking paper. I just cut this to size. And I just line the bottom with that. Keep it long on the side so I can drag it out once it's cooked. But I just fold it over while we're baking. Sometimes I clip it so the paper doesn't get in the way of my dough. It's time for our first stretch and fold, and I'll zoom you in so you can see the method. So all I do is I just grab the edge and I fold it in and try not to rip it. And because my dough is quite wet, I'll just do it a few times until it kind of springs back. And it's feeling quite tight now. So pop my cover back on. And I'm going to come back in 30 minutes. Time for our second stretch. If you want, you can add a little note next to you so you remember what you do. So I should have wet my hand slightly. It's probably a good idea to put flour or wet your hand a little bit. Back with wet hand. Stretch and fold into the middle. Rest again for 30 minutes. Fold number 3. It's feeling very good. Going to rest it one more time, then we'll come back and form our log. So it's time to remove the dough. I'm just putting some rice flour on the bench. I love kneading with rice flour. It's really fine and works really well with spelt flour. I'm just going to toss this onto the bench with the top of the dough on the bench side. Put some flour on my hands as well. And all I do is, Elly's method was just folding it until you form kind of like this tight shape. And I think that's pretty good. And then grab your tin and just lift it up and pop it in there. That's all it is. Just noticed a bumpy bit there. Now to cover it, all I'm going to do is add plastic to it. I've got 2 plastic bags because I don't have anything big enough. I'm just going to slide it on. All I do now is I place this in my fridge overnight. Can do it up to 36 hours, which is like a day and a half. I'll come back tomorrow afternoon and bake it, and then we'll see the results. So if you don't have plastic bags, you can also pop the tin into a big plastic container or cover it with lots of Glad wrap. So we're back to bake the bread, and I need to heat up my Dutch oven or cast iron casserole pot. In my oven, I need to pop it on 210 degrees Celsius or 410 Fahrenheit. And I'm using fan forced. So I'm just going to turn that on now. And I'll pop this in for 30 minutes to get warm before we start baking. So time to prep our bread before it goes into the oven. So this has been chilling overnight, and look at that, it's risen really nicely. Now you can use a spray bottle. I don't have one, so I'm just brushing on some water. This helps give it some hydration on the top and also creates a really nice shine to the dough. Just be gentle. We don't want to undo any of that good rising action. And this is optional. I'm just going to do a little slit down the center and just got this blade, this new tool. So I've just cut right down the middle. So it's time to remove the Dutch oven from the oven. And now I'm going to place my little loaf tin directly into the pan. It's really hot, so you just need to be careful. And that little loaf tin just fits. I'm going to bake it covered for 60 minutes, and I can't wait to show you the spring. Oh wow, even I'm excited. Look at this. Look how great that looks. I've got a really beautiful spring. I'm going to let that just cool for about 30 minutes before I lift the bread out, but we need to wait about 2 hours until I cut it and slice it to show you. Time to lift it out. So take the clips off. Grab these long pieces on the side and then lift it out. The pan needs a little bit of a clean. And I'll just rest it there for a few hours to completely cool down. So I'm back to cut the bread open to show you. What I love about this bread is being a loaf, it's really easy for me to cut. And I love the thin crust. It's perfect for toasting. Look at that. I'll cut another slice. Maybe it still doesn't have as many holes as a perfect sourdough, but for a spelt bread, it's really tasty, really soft and delicious. So I'm proud of my spelt loaf with my new whole grain spelt starter, 100% whole grain spelt flour, easy to cut, lovely thin crust. We're going to have this for breakfast in the morning. My husband's excited because he has fresh sourdough bread for tomorrow morning. Hope you enjoyed my first sourdough bread that I've shared with you, or the first one from my sourdough starter. I think I did another easy one a while back. Anyway, thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments below if you give this recipe a go and how it turns out for you. Thank you, Elly, for letting me share your recipe. I love that it's in a loaf pan and I can just pop it in the fridge, then pop it in my Dutch oven. I'll pop a few other, keep saying pop. I will add a few other links to other recipes if you want to stick around and check out some of my other favorite spelt recipes. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, if you feel like donating some money to support me, like to buy me a coffee or to buy some flour, there's a link below to my PayPal account, or you can hit the super thanks and just donate a really small amount. Everything helps, and I appreciate your support. Thanks again. Bye.